The event data that you collect in Google Analytics for Firebase is a really powerful indicator of how your app is doing overall and how individual events are performing. However, it gets even more powerful when you use this data in combination with things like user properties and audiences.
User properties are those characteristics which differentiate one user from another. It's one thing to understand how people in general use your app, but certainly different people use your app differently. And so user properties and audiences can help you segment your analytics data to get better insights into how different segments of your users use your app differently. Let's take a look at it. So using the left nav, you can head to the User Properties tab and register a new user property here. For example, perhaps you know the professions of your users, and you can type in profession here and say user's profession as a description so that you understand later on what the meaning of this field was. And then you use our API to call set user property of profession, supplying that value here. Once you've set that up, you can actually create audiences of users who meet certain criteria. That can be event and user property criteria. Here's a list of audiences I've already created, but I'll walk through the steps of creating a new one so you can see what it's like. And perhaps I have power users that I want to consider. And these are my most valuable users. And these can be users who have made an in-app purchase, or perhaps more than one. So we'll say they've made more than 3 in-app purchases. And I can also use a user property condition. These can be any of the automatic user properties which we collect for you, or any that you've manually defined, like the profession that I showed you earlier. In this case, I'll use one of my automatic ones, lifetime value, and say that my power users have greater than LTV of $10. Once I create this audience, it will start accumulating users who meet this criteria, and then these audiences become really valuable for you in reporting and in targeting. I'll cancel out of this one so you can see how one of my existing audiences works. By clicking on the purchaser's audience, I go to an audience report, which shows me first of all, how active the purchaser's audience has been, what their affinities are so I can better understand how this audience is composed, where these purchasers are, and what the demographic breakdown is of my purchasers. What's more than that, I can actually use this audience to segment the rest of my data. Heading back to the dashboard, let's take a look at my daily user engagement. You can see that the average user spends almost 12 minutes a day using the app. Let's see how much time purchasers spend using this game. You can see that they spend almost 10 minutes more per day playing this game than a non-purchaser. So there is some correlation between people who spend money in the game and those who don't. So you can see just how valuable your analytics data is beyond just number counting, the number of times that events and users have used your app at the top level. And user properties and audiences give you a much more insights into how different segments use your app.